All right, now that we have our compiler installed, let's see how we can start using it. I'm going to clear this and make this a little bit bigger so you can see. All we need to do to create a TypeScript file is to have a .ts at the end of the file. Just like we have .js for JavaScript, all we need is a TS file, and that is a TypeScript file. So let's do that. Let's make a directory first. We'll call it type. All right, I already have it made. We can cd into that folder. Oh, not to make directory. We want to cd into type. And in here, we can do touch TypeScript.ts for a TypeScript file. Let's open that in Sublime. And we have our TypeScript file. And again, I have a nice little plugin that gives me a types or a TypeScript icon over here. And it's already detecting it. Now, to get your editor set up to understand TypeScript, you might have to Google around and say, how can we add TypeScript to your editor? And I'm going to leave resources for you to do that as well. For Sublime Text, all you need to do is do Command-Shift-P on a Mac. You might have to do Control-Shift-P on Windows. You do install packages, and then within install packages, just simply do TypeScript. And I've already installed the package, so you see that it doesn't show up here, but it should just be the simple TypeScript package. There's a few others that you can download, but the simple TypeScript one should do just fine. Once you do that, if you go to the bottom over here, you see that my editor recognizes the TS file as TypeScript. And that's how you can check that your editor has those syntax highlighting for it. Again, you can see that I've got TypeScript all set up. Perfect. Let's write a simple TypeScript line here. We're going to go back to our simple example of function sum that takes in A and B, and it's going to return, let's say, A plus B. A very simple function. I'm going to save this, and let's run this through the compiler. Let's bring up the terminal. I'm going to actually just put this on one file just so it looks nice. And in here, we can run tsc for TypeScript compiler, and the file we want to run the compiler on. In our case, the TypeScript.ts. So TypeScript.ts. Let's hit enter. While I've been coding along, you may have noticed that, why did I just write an error function? And again, TypeScript detects these errors. Anytime you enter invalid JavaScript, it's going to be, on line 1, you're doing something funny. What are you trying to do? So again, let's write proper JavaScript. So this one is just a function declaration. So let's save and run that again. All right, that was it. No errors, but you see here that the TypeScript.js file was created. And if I go to TypeScript.js, all right, I have the exact same output. This function went through the compiler and it got compiled to JavaScript. Well, nothing is really different because we didn't do anything different here. All right, so let's turn this into a arrow function. Let's just say const sum equals arrow function and run it through the compiler again. And looks like there's no errors. So let's go back to our JS file. And whoa, look at that. It's changed our JavaScript or our TypeScript to a JavaScript file, but it's using the ES5 syntax. So no error function here. And you might be wondering to yourself, doesn't this what Babel do? Well, let's go to Babel. I'm going to open up the browser and say Babel and go to the Babel compiler. And they have a nifty little tool here that says just try it out. And right here, we can actually just run what we've done here. So let's just copy and paste our arrow function and see what we get. If we click on env preset, we see that we're getting the same thing. It's compiling down our new ES6 code to ES5. So yeah, it's doing the exact same thing as Babel. And this is another way to try new features of JavaScript and still compile it down to something that a browser understands. And now it might make sense why TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. TypeScript allows us to use new features that JavaScript otherwise wouldn't have, and we just get to compile it. TypeScript also tries to stay in line with modern features of JavaScript, so they'll actually implement it so that the compiler understands arrow functions as well. Very cool. Now let's write our first type. The syntax for TypeScript, again, they have really good documentation on this, and we're going to go step by step, is to do something like A equals string, or in our case, it's a number, and B should also be a number. I'm going to add spaces here just to make it cleaner. All right, if I save this now, and watch this, as I hover, do you see how my editor is giving me a little hint? That's another benefit of TypeScript. It's going to help me with some hints as I'm working on my code. But for now, let's see what it compiles to. I'm going to run it again and go to my JavaScript file. And yep, we don't have any of this number stuff. The compiler takes it out because this is the code that's going into production. And we don't want these extra bytes in our code that's going to make our code heavier to send to the client. So the compiler does this automatically for us. Very cool. But check this out. If I do sum 4 plus 5, whoa, what did I just do? My editor automatically, I didn't do anything other than have my TypeScript set up with my editor. I get expected 2 arguments, but got 1 because I'm doing 4 plus 5. Again, if we do 4 comma 5, now everything should work. And I'm not getting any errors. If I save and run TSC, everything works. Our code is still working. If I console.log, and let's just give it a const answer, and we'll just console log the answer. And let's run this again. All right, everything is working, but if I do node TypeScript.js, I get the answer of 9. Very cool. What if I do a string saying hello? Do you see that my editor has an underline of red now? And if I hover over this underline, kind of like a spell checker on your Word or text document, says argument of type hello is not assignable to a parameter of type number because I've said that A has a type of number. Even if I try to run TSC now, oh, I didn't save it. Let me save that. Even if I run TSC now, it actually will throw an error saying that exactly what it said in my editor, that type of string isn't going to work with type of number. How cool is that? This is what we mean where we say that it catches errors at compile time. Because this code will never make it out to production. Because in order for us to send code to production, we must first convert it to JavaScript. And when we convert it to JavaScript, we catch those errors in our compiler. And if it throws any errors, we know we need to fix them. Versus JavaScript, the way that it works is this JavaScript gets sent to the browser, and the browser does what it's called a just-in-time compiling and compiles the code on the spot for each one of their users. And this will most likely throw an error. And the user might see a blank screen or a red, and we wouldn't know what to do. So that's pretty nice. And by the way, you may have noticed that it still compiles our JavaScript to the hello string parameter. That's just something that it does, but you can see here that the errors do come out so that you wouldn't actually send this to production. You'll see that there's errors and that you need to fix some stuff. All right, this looks pretty exciting and promising. We just had this great feature added to make sure that our code is less error prone. Go try it out on your own. Make sure that your text editor has all of this set up. And keep in mind, if you're having issues with your editor, Google is your friend here. There's a ton of resources online for whatever editor you have to set it up with TypeScript. But it shouldn't take you more than a couple minutes, maybe max an hour. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.